In The Lord of the Rings, there's a dramatic moment when the leaders of the different peoples face a tough decision. Who will carry the ring? As they all look at one another nervously, it's the smallest among them, a hobbit named Frodo Baggins, who steps forward, accepts the challenge, and heads off on an adventure into the unknown. Frodo's the kind of guy that we all imagine ourselves to be sometimes. Not really cut out for the task at hand, but having it thrust upon us anyways. It's something that has to be done, and we're the one to do it. Sometime into the journey, lost in the dwarvish mines that run deep under the mountains, our heroes stop to take a break. Poor Frodo is carrying this heavy burden, a ring of immense power, and it's weighing on him. Evil follows him and is making him worry. He's already been dealt a blow that almost killed him, a horrible injury to his shoulder. It will never be fully healed, and he struggles to continue on. As they rest, Frodo has a quiet conversation with their wizard guide, Gandalf the Grey. Frodo says, "I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish it need not have happened in my time." And Gandalf replies, "So do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." In the readings today, the church gives us the examples of Isaiah, Paul, and Peter. All three of these men are called by God, but all three of them are apprehensive, not feeling worthy to accept God's call. Isaiah asks, "How can I, a man of unclean lips, living among a people of unclean lips, proclaim the Lord?" Paul says that he was called even though he persecuted the church. He says he's the very least of the apostles, but by the grace of God, he is still an apostle. Peter falls at Jesus' knees and says, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." Like Frodo, Isaiah, Paul, and Peter do not feel that they are cut out for the task at hand. But God helps them to answer his call, strengthening their faith by powerful signs. Isaiah experiences a cleansing by the angel, touching an ember to his lips. Paul is knocked off his horse on the road to Damascus, and Peter catches more fish than he could handle on his boat. Also like Frodo, Isaiah, Paul, and Peter answer the call and head off on an adventure into the unknown. History tells us that these men did not live in easy times. Isaiah was a witness to the fall of the northern kingdom of Israel to the Assyrians, and he preached to the people in the southern kingdom, a people that was turning more and more away from God. Paul was rejected, stoned, imprisoned, and eventually executed. Peter left his livelihood, spent years on the road as the religious leaders challenged Jesus and eventually had him crucified, and he himself was crucified. All three of these men, at one time or another, probably said Frodo's words, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." But they don't get to pick the time when they live. They only get to decide what to do with the time given them. And with God's help, they led very fruitful lives, persevering to the end. Look at all that's happening in our world right now. The coronavirus, political division, poverty, lack of respect for life, environmental destruction, gender confusion, increasing crime, legalizing sin, human trafficking, and more and more and more. How many times have we said Frodo's words, "I wish it need not have happened in my time"? But it is happening in our time. We don't get to choose our times, but we do get to choose what we do with the time given us. And the good news is that God has a plan for us. He is calling us today just like he called Isaiah, Paul, and Peter. And he will help us. We too are meant to live fruitful lives, even in the midst of all that is going on in the world. Listen to the words of this prayer by St. John Henry Newman. "Oh my God, you have created me to do some definite service. You have committed some work to me that you have not committed to another. I have my mission. I never may know it in this life, but I shall be told it in the next. Somehow I am necessary for your purposes. You did not create me for naught. Whatever, wherever I am, I can never be thrown away. If I am in sickness, my sickness may serve you. If I am in perplexity, my perplexity may serve you. If I am in sorrow, my sorrow may serve you. You do nothing in vain. Oh my God, I give myself to thee. I trust thee wholly. Let me be thy blind instrument. I ask not to see, I ask not to know. I ask simply to be used." My brothers and sisters, God is calling us, each one of us, today. We may not feel worthy, but he has a mission for us. We don't pick the times, we don't pick the mission. All we choose is whether to follow. Let the adventure begin.